The RMS Titanic, the ship of dreams, the unsinkable ship, the largest ever constructed at the time, and the pride of the White Star Line. Built in Belfast, sailing off to Southampton on its maiden voyage, destination New York City. After her final stop in Cove, no, I'm not calling her Queenstown, she set sail into the endless seas, which, unknown to everybody on board, will be her last. Hey, how about we make that into an animated movie that takes a crap on the story and all the victims? So I'm very fascinated with the story of the Titanic, and really, ships in general, whether that be Queen Anne's Revenge, Bismarck, Olympic, or even the little SS Nomadic. They offer a sense of wonder, an exploration into the unknown, something that has largely vanished since the world has become so interconnected and easy to navigate. And the Titanic is no exception. The story of an unsinkable ship, the largest ever built, only to sink on her maiden voyage. The ship was built on the island I was born on, built by 15,000 Irishmen, carrying 164 Irish people to the New World, only for 110 of them to perish in the Atlantic alongside the other 1,500 souls. I've been to the Titanic Museum in Belfast many times, and got to see the Nomadic, the last surviving ship of the White Star Line. I've been fascinated by this old ship ever since I was a kid. I'm sure that many people share the same interest. The story has become embedded into pop culture and, of course, film. Now, I've seen two Titanic movies before. The first one was the James Cameron movie, of course. This movie was huge, being the first ever to break $1 billion at the box office. It's become sort of a classic, with many scenes becoming staples of film. Nowadays, Titanic is a movie where you either love it or you hate it. And for me, I love it. I think it's a really strong film. Now, is it perfect? No, of course not, like any movie. Dialogue can be very corny.
You're no picnic, all right? You're a spoiled little brat even. But under that, you're the most amazingly astounding, wonderful woman that I've ever known.
Romance wasn't all too well developed, and some liberties were taken with the story, like Murdoch's death scene for an example, and yeah, there definitely was enough space on the debris. Well done, Rose. If you had moved your fat arse a tad bit, you'd be happily married with Jack. But of course not. Though personally, I can look over these flaws, because the rest of the movie is just so strong. The effects have aged beautifully more than 20 years later, the shots are incredible, everything was recreated with such attention to detail. Like, they didn't have to add the White Star Line logo to the cutlery, but they did. The suspense of the iceberg collision, seriously, how does this movie make you on edge for something you know will happen? And just the whole scene of the ship sinking and taking her final plunge is portrayed both beautifully and horrifyingly. Not to mention, the James Horner score is amazing, one of the best film scores of all time in my opinion. Honestly, no matter what you think of James Cameron and his movies, I think it's undeniable to say that he's a great director. Even movies I don't really like, such as Avatar, the direction and the world are so well done that it at least holds your interest. This man really wanted to make the Titanic as accurate as possible, and he mostly succeeded. Like the man that literally remade parts of the ship for fuck's sake, like the Grand Staircase, not to mention the ship herself. It really was a project with a lot of care put into it, and for that, I can't bring myself to dislike it. The next movie I saw was not A Night to Remember, surprisingly, though I should probably check it out someday. No, the other one was Titanic, made in 1943 by, well, who other than the Nazis. Yeah, this is a really weird piece of propaganda made during World War II to convince Europe of the evilness of the British, I guess. It's nothing more than historical revisionism, going so far as to making up a German first officer as the main character, who never actually existed, as well as blaming the sinking of the ship on the corrupt British and Americans. It's a whole load of horse shit, but I guess it's worth watching if you want to see how much they twist the story to fit into the Nazi propaganda machine. The direction and acting are okay, I guess. Funnily enough, apparently the scene where the people were screaming for their lives on the sinking ship is why the movie was pulled from cinemas, as Joseph Goebbels, the Minister for Propaganda, thought it was too demoralizing. Pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, you may think that the Nazi Titanic movie, sorry I can't say it with a straight face, is the most offensive portrayal of the story of this ship, and it very well may be, but I found two movies that may very well rival that in terms of its offensiveness and bastardization of the story. So, if a Titanic film made by the Nazis sounds weird, then how about two Titanic films made by Italians and North Koreans? The two movies in question are The Legend of the Titanic, released in 1999, and Titanic, The Legend Goes On, which was released in 2000, both of which received not so stunning reviews. They can't be that bad, right?
Oh my goodness!
But what do the critics know, right? I'm sure these two films are masterpieces that rival the James Cameron version. So these movies decide to take quite a few liberties with the story. And when I mean liberties, I mean they add fucking talky and singing anthropomorphic animals. What a lovely homage to the ones who lost their lives that night. Anyway, we'll start off with The Legend of the Titanic. So this movie was directed by Kim Jong-ok, a North Korean director who's made many wonderful films like Pocahontas, Simba the King Lion, The Prince of Dinosaurs, The Legend of Sleeping Beauty. I'm sure you've noticed the theme with all these movies. They're nothing more than mockbusters, meant to trick your old ones into thinking they've bought the real one, only to return and see the disappointment on their grandchildren's faces. A story for the ages. This film is clearly trying to ride the success of the James Cameron Titanic, which, as said before, was huge. So where to even begin with this movie? I guess we'll talk about the story first, and how much they botched that up. So the movie starts with this mouse telling his children about the true story of the Titanic. True being in massive quotation marks, of course. Now, what was the truth? Well, of course, it was a giant octopus who destroyed the Titanic for reasons. Yeah, it turns out the true story was a lie the whole time. Who would have guessed? Anyway, the mice board the Titanic, though not before playing some football. So yeah, this is a common theme in these Italian-made animated movies. They always find a way to include football for some reason. Though they made sure to specify multiple times that the mice are Brazilian, as if it wasn't believable enough. Also, it wouldn't be a complete movie without racism. Yay.
Gypsies, go ahead. I'll join you in a moment.
Disgusting exhibition, I say.
I hate to be a spoilsport, but I would like to draw to your attention the fact that she's a woman and you're a mouse.
Well, there's one thing I'm not, and that's a racist.
Wait, what? This movie focuses on two sets of characters, one being focused on the animals, and the other being focused on the humans. This blonde-haired girl here is an obvious Rose ripoff. I mean, they even have a similar introduction. It's the same story, the rich girl who feels distance from their parents, who don't really love her, who falls in love with a man she wasn't supposed to. Only difference is that this was told worse. Like, much, much worse. Anyway, the girl storms off from her rude family and goes to the stern, presumably to kill herself. Fun. But oh, through some divine magic, she can communicate with the animals, who proceed to help her and explain how they're trying to stop the Titanic, an ocean liner, from harpooning whales, you know, as it was known to do on its maiden voyage. We are also introduced to the villain, and you know he's evil because he has a big scary eye patch. Ooh, how scary, I'm very intimidated.
Oh, scary! Oh, shiver my timbers! Shut up, man!
I think they're trying to get the girl married off to them, as well as to get the rights to hunt whales, but honestly, I don't fucking know. I zoned out a few times watching this. Also, for some reason, they are dealing with sharks. Like, they're able to understand each other somehow, and they're both trying to hunt the whales. Right. Now, this lad here with the dog, I'm guessing is supposed to be Jack, I think. He doesn't really act like him, and he seems like nothing more than an Italian stereotype, but he does fill the same role nonetheless. Oh, hey, look, more footballs. Just in case you forgot that Italians made this movie. So the two ones meet, and like, they don't even try to make their relationship seem natural. They instantly go all out. Though honestly, I shouldn't really care. This is the absolute last thing I should be worrying about in this movie. So yeah, blah blah blah, dance scene, more family drama, planting the ship, more football callbacks.
This calls for a soccer player. What's this?
Yeah, I don't care. I want to see the good stuff. So these sharks trick this giant octopus to throw an iceberg at the Titanic, which he does, spelling doom for the ship. And yeah, that's probably how it went down, no doubts. Also, I must commend the Titanic right ahead scene here. Wow, so suspense-filled and intense. Definitely rivals the one in the Cameron movie.
The wheel's blocked, sir! It won't turn! I got it!
Oh, but it was too late and the Titanic strikes the berg, causing the ship to sink. Though in this movie the ship starts immediately sinking really fast, with everyone scrambling on top deck to get in the lifeboat. Like, the real Titanic took over 2 and a bit hours to sink, and it certainly wasn't this quickly. Wait, why am I critiquing accuracy in the North Korean Titanic movie? Anyway, the mice go to fix the telegraph so other ships can hear Titanic's distress calls. Also, the fat French mouse dies.
I got it. Connect the wires through my mustache. Oh, Camembert. What a hero.
Oh no! Anyway.
The octopus tries to help the people by holding the Titanic together. Also, everyone seems to react rather normally to the giant octopus kaiju monster. The whales then arrive to save everyone on board, including Captain Smith, who survives. I guess the 1,500 people that died on board, including the captain, were secretly rescued by fucking whales this whole time. Those damn cultural Marxists trying to erode the true story of the Titanic. Shame on them. But oh no, the two leads are still stuck on the Titanic and are forced to jump, but in the nick of time are saved as well. How lovely. The survivors are then picked up by the... Okay, that doesn't look like the Carpathia. It's more like the Britannic. Ah, but who cares? The villains get lost at sea, the main characters get married, and the movie's over. Thank Christ. So what is there to say that hasn't already been said? This movie is really something else. So obviously the most outrageous thing about this movie is the premise. Making a movie about the Titanic by including talking animals and a giant octopus. It's like making a World War I movie with Santa Claus leading the front lines. And although it is quite funny, it is also quite offensive and insulting to the actual 1,500 people that died that night. Making everyone be saved by fucking whales is just a stupid cop-out. Like, it isn't hard for children to know people died in the Titanic. I mean, everyone knows that. I guess the other things to talk about are the animation and voice acting, and hey, surprise surprise, they're both shit. The animation on the characters looks like the ones from the direct-to-DVD Disney sequels, which is not a compliment. The character designs also clash really hard. The Eye Patch Man looks so out of place in a movie about the Titanic, as well as the animals, of course. Speaking of that, the designs of the animals also clash hard with each other, if that was even possible. The mice are anthro, but every other animal walks and looks like actual animals. There are also these scenes where they have the Titanic as a 3D model, and it just looks awful. The only positive I can give is that the background art looks okay, and that's really it. The voice acting is also unsurprisingly terrible.
Thank you, young man. I must say your ship is most impressive. Right, Elizabeth?
The voice actors don't sound like they give a shit at all, and some characters just sound absolutely irritating.
The whales! The whales are here! Hooray!
Another thing is the abundance of stereotypes. You have the Brazilian stereotypes, the French stereotypes, the Roma stereotypes, and the Italian stereotypes, of course. Like, do kids find stereotypes amusing? I sure hope not. Though I guess back then they were much more relaxed when it came to humour. I mean, just look at H.P. Lovecraft's cat name. So all in all, this movie is utter shite, and it's both insulting and hilarious. Okay, on to... Wait, there's a sequel? Nope, I'm not touching that, moving on. The next one we'll be looking at is Titanic, The Legend Goes On, released a year after the other one. Loving the consistency, guys. This one was also directed by Italians, but unfortunately, North Korea was not a part of this production. What's weird is that both of these mockbuster Titanic movies include talking animals for whatever reason. Like, I don't get it. Do they think that kids won't pay attention to the movie if it doesn't have the funny animals on screen? Anyway, the movie starts out with...
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Fucking hell, we're off to a great start, aren't we? Somehow the animation is just as bad as the last one, which I didn't think was possible, but this movie does the impossible. So they start off the movie by showing the sinking and trying to make the audience feel sad, I guess. But I'm mostly just laughing about how bad and choppy the animation is, as well as the character designs and their weird frog eyes. Also, why is this lady laughing? Wow, there's people dying on board, how funny. Also, it's even more painfully obvious that these two are just Jack and Rose. Like, they didn't even change up their hair colour or anything this time. Well, so far, we're off to a great feckin' start. This movie also features mice, but instead of being Brazilian stereotypes, they're now... Mexican stereotypes.
What's with the costumes, guys? We've been on tour, senor, and cannot wait to get home, muchachos?
These movies sure do have their priorities straight. Right, anyway, so like the other Titanic movie, this one has multiple different characters, like the two main human characters and the mice. But they also, for some reason, try to fit in a Sherlock Holmes-like character with him searching for a jewel thief. Need to remind you what the subject matter of this movie is supposed to be about? And not only is there mice, but there's now the cat from Cinderella and a fucking rapping dog.
If it hadn't been for you, I would be now in someone else's digestion.
You know there's something you should know, so I'm gonna tell you so. Don't sweat it, forget it, enjoy the show. Working all day, now it's time to unwind. Kick back, relax, take a load off your mind. I'll be busting the moves and I'll be busting the rhymes. We'll be busting up laughing cause it's party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time.
Need to remind you that this is a movie about the Titanic. Like, it's not even clever. He just bursts into song and dance out of nowhere. It's real bizarre. Also, this rap goes on for like a minute and a half and it's incredibly annoying. Fucking end me.
You wrong, Mom?
You could talk. Oh my God! What's wrong with your face?
So I guess they changed Rose's... Oh, sorry, I meant Angelica's role. Where instead of being the daughter of a family desperate for money, she's a third-class passenger and a servant, I think. She then meets Jack, Will. And hey, at least their first interaction is more natural than the other one. So well done. See, look, I can give credit where credit's due. Also, for some reason, Will sounds like a flamboyant British man.
I met a sweet, charming girl. I don't know who she is, or even what part of the ship she's in. She's vanished into thin air.
Not sure why, but unique choice for sure. So, despite me believing a second ago that the romance is more believable, turns out I was wrong. On our next encounter, they immediately start hitting it on. Like, I know the relationship in the Cameron movie wasn't all too great, but at least they tried to make it feel like a while. Rose didn't fucking have sex with Jack on day one. These movies just don't understand the concept of romance. But these movies were made by Italians, so I shouldn't be surprised. Right, okay, that was shite, cut that line out. Angelica goes to the first officer, who looks nothing like William Murdoch. Well done, lads, you had one fucking job. Right, some more stupid animal hijinks, shit about the missing necklace, romance, some more Italian and Mexican stereotypes. I don't care, let's get to the good stuff. So we get to the iceberg right ahead scene, and I must say, this one is a downgrade from the other Titanic movie. Like seriously, it's so slow and the music makes me want to fall asleep. Not something you want to say about the collision scene. At least there's no giant octopus and sharks. What a relief. And just like the last one, all hell breaks loose immediately, which isn't very accurate. One thing that is of particular notice are these two ones here, who I think are supposed to be Ida and Isidor Strauss, an old married couple who refused to leave the ship and decided to stay together. I just find it interesting that for all the inaccuracies and liberties this movie takes, they did know enough about the Titanic to include them. We then see the Titanic snap in two as it sinks below the waters, with Angelica on the boat while Will is left to fend for himself in the freezing water, the selfish bitch. Though fortunately he does survive along with all the other animal characters. Hooray.
Wait a minute, where are you going? The movie isn't over yet. Don't you want to know what happened to everybody?
No, I'm done, thank you. Right, so what is there to say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It may not be as much of a bastardization of the original as The Legend of the Titanic was, but it's still pretty stupid. From the rapping dog, the Mexican stereotypes, and the stupid love story, this movie really has it all. I know that the ones who lost their lives on April 15, 1912 are up there somewhere listening to It's Party Time. Truly beautiful. Anyway, I guess the next thing to talk about is the animation, and yeah, of course it's bad. You don't need me to say that. I guess it's not as bad as the other Titanic movie, but still, that's really not a compliment at all. It's more of an insult if anything. They also show the Titanic as a 3D model and it at least looks a bit bare. But yet again, not saying much. The animals are, of course, completely stupid and make the movie even worse, as I've said before. Honestly, what's sad is that this and The Legend of the Titanic are unfortunately the Titanic animated movies, which is a shame. I'm still holding out hope that some studio out there will do Titanic justice in animated form. But alas, we have these movies to enjoy, I guess. So these two movies sucked the life out of me, and made me wish for death multiple times. If you were to say which one was worse, I'd probably say The Legend of the Titanic because of, you know, the giant fucking octopus and the fact everyone survives. That's not giving credit though to the Titanic Legend Goes On. Quite the contrary, in fact. These movies are quite hilarious to watch, especially The Legend of the Titanic. But at the end of the day, they're trying to make a fantastical story out of a tragedy where 1,500 people died. I sure can't wait for Anne Frank, The Legend Goes On now. How exciting. Anyway, that all but wraps up these two films. Thank Christ. Right, so if you enjoyed this video for some reason, be massively appreciated if you just go ahead and subscribe, or like. That would be preferable if you did both. Just liking and not subscribing would be a bit off. But whatever, you do you, and I'll see ya next time. Maybe. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring out the details of this whole thing. Right, see yas.